Hi everyone, my name is Mel Corey and I'm the Manager of Environment Compliance at Queanbeyan-Palorang Regional Council. I'd like to thank the Upper Murrumbidgee Catchment Network for giving me the opportunity to come along and speak with you all today, and also to welcome you all to Queanbeyan, which is obviously the major population centre of our council area. Council is really proud to support and partner with the Catchment Network to achieve our common goals around catchment protection. We've heard a lot today about high-level planning and strategy work that goes into protecting our catchments, and I'd really like to thank everyone for their hard work in that area. The work that my team does comes much further down the line and really is at the pointy end of environmental protection. I'm going to talk to you today about the important work that Council does to protect water quality in our high development areas. Our regulatory program aims to promote behavioural change through a combination of education and enforcement. The Queanbeyan River truly is an urban river. It bisects our CBD. The river is and always has been of significance to our local population. Council does regular survey work, and the natural environment, and in particular the Queanbeyan River corridor, always rate highly as reasons why people choose to live in and visit Queanbeyan. And as you can see, it looks great anytime, day or night. We've got some large recreation areas that are maintained by Council that are centred around our river. Our popular Queanbeyan River Walk in the CBD is enjoyed by hundreds of residents every day, especially in the warmer months. The convenient loop allows everyone to appreciate the river without leaving the Queanbeyan CBD. Queanbeyan River is also home to resident platypus and ricali populations, and they're regularly sighted along our river walk. These are unique and cherished residents of our community, and they rely on our efforts to protect water quality and the natural environment as Queanbeyan continues to grow, develop and change. The Queanbeyan River at Googong Dam also forms part of a water supply catchment for both the ACT and the urban parts of the QPRC area. Regulating development in a water supply catchment is of particular importance to ensure consistent and high quality raw water is supplied to the filtration plants. This reduces treatment costs and ensures high quality drinking water is supplied to every end user when they turn on their tap. South of Googong Dam, after flowing through the Queanbeyan CBD, the river enters the ACT and eventually Lake Burley Griffin. My presentation is going to focus particularly on Council's work around prevention of sediment loss from development sites into local waterways, and particularly our work around Googong. Googong is a relatively new development, a greenfield development, master plan development, approximately 10 minutes from the Queanbeyan CBD, located on the foreshores of Googong Dam and in a sensitive environmental area. The development out there has a huge potential to impact on water quality and the natural environment. The estimated population of Googong is currently around 7,000, but will eventually be home to 18,000 residents. The town's well located, but also relatively self-contained, with its own schools, town centres, retail and food options, sporting fields, indoor pools and various outdoor recreation areas. There are over 3,200 lots currently registered at Googong, with an estimated 400 to 500 homes in various stages of construction at any one time. Subdivision works to open up new estate areas are being undertaken in conjunction with building works, meaning there's large areas of disturbed land at any one time. And it's all happening really quickly to meet the growing demand for land and housing in this area. The 7,000 current residents at Googong have chosen to live there partially because of its environmental and sustainability values. The town promotes its access to pristine natural areas for both active and passive recreation. Googong was awarded the Green Building Council of Australia's first 5-star Green Star Communities rating in 2016. The rating was recently re-accredited at the end of 2021. The community has access to a recycled water network, which recycles water, supplies it for laundry and outdoor use. And the integrated water cycle management means Googong residents use approximately 60% less potable water than the other parts of Queanbeyan. Googong residents also share their home with the vulnerable pink-tailed worm lizard. So various policies, including cat containment requirements, restricted access to sensitive environmental areas, help to protect the environment and help out this important natural species. We've got many additional eyes on the way that future development is undertaken at Googong, and we receive various concerns from these residents, a lot of those relating to sediment loss from development sites. So the need to control soil erosion and the potential pollution that arises from it has been recognised for decades as really important to maintaining urban water quality. Greenfield developments have a huge potential to impact on water quality, land disturbance, installation of infrastructure, building of homes and amenities for residents means the erosion potential is huge. Ecological effects of sediment pollution are well known, impacts on aquatic plants, reduced light penetration, but also it blocks our drains and infrastructure. So that picture there's the inside of one of our sewer pump stations in a greenfield development after a large rainfall event. So that's all sediment that's infiltrated the sewer either through manholes or overflow relief gullies, and absolutely should not be there. So we're pretty lucky. There's various approvals required to undertake building and subdivision work in New South Wales, and I won't go into a huge amount of detail here, but approvals for both building and subdivision works are granted under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. Approvals at Googong have been growing steadily since the original land release, and the attached table shows just how quickly the community's growing. So each pathway of approval results in an approval with conditions of consent. All development consents in New South Wales have a requirement for management of sediment and erosion control prior to construction commencing on site. The controls required are either in accordance with a site-specific erosion sed control plan or generic controls installed in accordance with Managing Urban Stormwater, Soils and Construction Volume 1, or as better known, the New South Wales Blue Book. The other piece of relevant legislation for us is the Protection of Environment Operations Act. The Act deals with pollution, including water pollution, and this is the very long and convoluted legislative definition of water pollution, but at its most general, it means introducing any matter into the waters that changes its physical, chemical, or biological condition. And most importantly, the New South Wales legislative definition includes likely to pollute, meaning that material placed in an area where it can fall, descend, be washed, be blown, or percolate into the water also meets the definition of water pollution. And this is where my team comes in. We can have all the strategy, frameworks, legislation and approval requirements in place, but we need people on the ground to ensure that works are carried out in accordance with these requirements. I have a dedicated team of 6 staff involved in environmental and development compliance work, and a huge part of our role is regulating building and subdivision sites. As local government compliance officers, we see the first part of our role as educational. We focus on educating builders and developers about their responsibilities to ensure everyone has a good understanding of the end goal, improved environmental outcomes. We produce educational material regarding erosion controls, and this is one of our flyers that goes out with every one of our consents. We run builders' talks, builders' brekkies, builders' afternoons, where we aim to explain our legislative requirements in really simple terms. We want to make sure that everybody understands their responsibility and that we're all working together for that common goal. Unfortunately, we are in an area that's rapidly developing, and we do have a really small regulatory team. So we're unable to hold the hand of every developer working in our area, and sometimes our best efforts to educate don't result in the behavioural change we're looking for, and this is where enforcement comes in. So there's some penalties for non-compliance with your consent conditions, and council also has broad powers to issue orders to ensure compliance. And if they thought EP&A penalties were high, these are the new penalties for water pollution under the Protection of Environment Operations Act. Water pollution is an offence under Section 120 of the Act, and they're the maximum penalties. So depending on the seriousness, it's considered either a Tier 2 or Tier 3 offence. So Tier 2 offences dealt with in the Land and Environment Court, and those are the maximum penalties that can be imposed. The ones with PN on them, penalty infringement notices or on-the-spot fines, and those significant monetary values reflect the importance of water to the New South Wales community. And, you know, water quality is of the utmost importance to all of us. So our development regulation work focuses on all stages of the construction process, from subdivision of land to building of houses and landscaping and final amenity works. Subdivision works can be very complicated, with various players involved to ensure works are undertaken in accordance with the approved erosion sed control plan. There's often independent overseas site superintendents, environmental consultants who will be employed to provide another layer of protection for those large-scale works. So that's showing the first part of Googong there, with the subdivision works occurring to the rear and closer to the dam. So on a subdivision site, erosion sed control usually involves a treatment train. So we're looking at upstream diversion of clean water to stop it coming onto the development site and becoming dirty to start with. Then we've got some management options on site, things like lined drainage channels, sediment fencing, use of hay bales, with the site eventually draining to a sediment basin. So water in the sediment basin is treated to an appropriate level of turbidity before being released into the environment, and the sediment ponds are managed to ensure that they have appropriate capacity before large rainfall events. On the whole, subdivision sites are generally better managed due to their scale and the dollars involved, but if not, the potential for environmental impact is huge. And this is what happens when it all goes wrong. So this photo shows the confluence of the Queanbeyan River and one of its tributaries. There's large-scale subdivision work occurring in the catchment of the tributary, and during a period of heavy rain, the treatment train stopped working, derailed, and we had a collapse of the dam wall on a sediment basin, and the entirety of that subdivision site drained into that creek and then eventually into the river. So that was something that really showed the importance of every single step in the process, and that when each little thing fails, spectacular catastrophic events can occur. And what happens to the sediment ponds at the end? So this is actually an artist's rendition of Beltana Pond out at Googong. So it was the sediment basin for the original stage 1 construction works, and now provides an important active and passive recreation area for the new residents. So building sites are a whole new story for us. So we're dealing with many new and inexperienced builders, people who have limited understanding of their role in environmental compliance, and cost of living pressures. We're seeing a lot of corner cutting. Yeah, so despite our best efforts to educate, we're losing the battle on our smaller building sites and relying heavily on enforcement for behavioural change, which is disappointing, because actually protecting the environment on a small-scale building site is really easy. We're looking for 3 things: effective erosion sediment controls to stop sediment leaving the site during times of rain. So this can include diverting upstream water flow, limiting the amount of disturbed areas on site, sediment fencing, leaving your footpath vegetated. The second thing we're looking for is a stabilised construction access, prevents vehicles tracking mud out onto the roads and eventually ending up in the stormwater system. And we're looking for effective waste and material management on site. So considering all the work we do in educating and ensuring everyone understands their responsibilities, the penalties I outlined above, and the relative simplicity of compliance, you'd think that compliance with these fairly simple measures would be pretty easy, but absolutely not the case. We're still seeing some really crazy things on site. Things like blatant breaches of development and environmental legislation. So that's a residential building site, straight out of the dirty excavation into council's adjacent stormwater system. And that stormwater pipe was half full of sediment, so really, really bad. This is another one. So we've got nicely installed sediment fencing, but a hose bypassing the environmental controls on site, and again straight into our stormwater system. And this one, we like using this one because it's just about the worst example of site management. There's absolutely no environmental controls on that side at all, and we're seeing an actual pollution incident there with all that mess in the gutter. So these are ones that are sort of getting a bit closer. So we really just need a stabilised construction access on that one, and that'd be all good. This one here is particularly interesting because that was actually a sandbag that they were using to prevent sediment getting into the stormwater inlet, which has actually burst and itself causing a pollution incident there. And then, look, despite all those bad examples, we are gradually seeing an improvement on site, and these are the sites that make us feel good about doing our job. And absolutely, we're seeing improved water quality in Googong tributaries and the Queanbeyan River as a result of our work. The work that we do is an essential part of Council's ongoing works in maintaining the Queanbeyan River corridor. So, as sort of the good news part of my slide, Council, obviously we have high aspirations for our river corridor, but it costs money. So we've applied for some funding under the Urban Rivers Project grant, and I was hoping that I might be in a position to make a good news announcement today, but we still don't know. So we've applied for over nearly $2 million worth of funding over 4 years, predominantly for restoration works in that urban section of our corridor there. We're looking at weed removal, erosion control, some replanting, and also improved accessibility for our residents and supporting our platypus. So thank you very much.